Well, hey everybody. Happy Wednesday. Let's talk about episode 155. I do have an audio clip that I'm going to play in just a second, so be prepared to adjust your own volume. Let's go ahead and pick it up where they left us yesterday. Remember when Heather was sitting with Joey up at his casino and she got that text from Andre, I need to see you right now. I'm on my way. And so she thought it was going to be the best shag of her life, a night of all night making love. Well, Andre is there for one thing and one thing only. Why are you hanging out with my wife and her friend? Why? Tell me why, Heather. And y'all, this actress is doing a phenomenal job. She really is. She's so believable as Heather. And, we know that she has a long history in acting in soaps and so on and so forth. But she explains to him, it was just a coincidence that I ran into Danny and, Vanessa. I'm not following anybody. She tries to convince him that she's not doing what she actually is doing. And then she's all up on Andre. I want you in my bed. Y'all, Heather is shaking when she says this to Andre. This lady is doing a phenomenal job. I'm telling you, she acted out that part excellently. Now, ladies, guys, cover your ears, okay? Ladies, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, maybe with your husband now or maybe a boyfriend or whatever, but you could be so in love with a man and want him so bad that even before you've had the orgasm, you're already shaking just thinking about it. Come on, ladies. Any of y'all ever had some real good sex? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Now, guys, you can uncover your ears. See, I was a lady about it. I didn't get crass. I could have, but I won't. Anywho, but this lady is shaking and everything. And Andre, she's biting her lip and all this kind of stuff. And y'all, Andre is trying to resist. I have to say, men like Andre Richardson actually do exist in real life. It is not true that every man cheats. It is now, he may wind up cheating because she's asked him today. It's basically sex for silence. If you want me to keep my mouth shut and not make a stink up in here, okay, you better give me what I want. So we know he's going to have to acquiesce. I mean, that's just where they're going to take it because it is a soap opera. But I have to say, I'm so glad that they are giving us a character like Andre who truly is dedicated to Danny, despite how they got together, despite all of it. And remember, in the very beginning of Danny and Andre's relationship, she kept talking about how deeply Bill hurt her. And one of the promises that Andre made is that he would not do to her what Bill did to her. But anywho, so he's like, Heather, no, I love my wife. She's the only woman. And she's like, if you don't give me what I want, I might not take it so well. And y'all, Heather gets this wide-eyed look. I'm like, y'all, is Heather on the crazy spectrum? Is she on the crazy spectrum? Is she an Allison just in high heels? But anyway, so he's like, no. And he says to her, listen, it's never going to happen. And she's like, okay, fine. But I can't say, basically what I'm going to do if you don't do what I want you to do. And so Andre gets ready to walk out and she gets in front of him. And he walks past her and he's like, Heather, I'm just trying to be honest with you. I'm just letting you know it ain't gonna happen. She said, we'll see. And then she closes the door in his face, y'all. And Andre's standing there like, whoa. But let me tell you what Andre does. Now, y'all know I was like, don't bring Ted in on this. And so, y'all, Andre goes over to Ted's office, and I want to pick up the audio there. Y'all know, because of certain rules, I can't play all of their conversation, but I'm going to play a smidge of it. But I will say, Andre goes over to Ted's office unannounced. Okay, Ted is smacking and going on, eating whatever. And he is trying to get advice from him, but not from the standpoint of how do I get rid of Heather, but how did you do what you did to Danny? Y'all tell us in the comments what your viewer experience was with this part of the show today. But from my vantage point, I got the idea that Andre was trying to find some way to see how did Ted justify what he did so that he can kind of have some kind of blueprint for what he's going to do, because he knows that Heather is crazy and he knows that if he doesn't give her sex, she ain't going to be silent and she just may hurt Danny or start stirring up trouble. You know what is so crazy to me? The easiest thing out of all the mess is just to be honest. But why is it as human beings we just feel like honesty is the worst thing we can be? Being honest, rather, is the worst thing we can be with someone. But look at all the trouble the lies cause. Okay, so go ahead and adjust your volume. This is Andre. He's now sat down with Ted, and Ted's like, Andre, what's going on? And he's like, I'm here to ask you about, Leslie. And he's like, what has she done? So we'll pick it up there, and I'll be right back.
What's Dana starting up now? It's not about what she's done lately. Oh, so you're delving into my past? I got questions about you. About Nicole. About how you did what you did with Leslie. For as long as you did it. I've asked you before, and the answer has not changed. I'm not cheating on Dana. Then why are we having this conversation? Because I need to understand something, OJ. You told me the why. I'm asking about the how.
Sorry, y'all. I was watching the show from home today, and I was trying to get things ready for dinner. So there was a lot of background noise, so I apologize. But the point of it is, girl, is that Ted goes through the whole story about how he was lying to Nicole and how it just tore him up. And, he would just put it out of his mind. But he also tells Andre the fact that Bill ran old girl out of town. It helped in the sense that it helped him not face the truth, but in the long run, it didn't do nothing. But y'all remember, Andre's had a front seat to the mess of Ted and Leslie. So it doesn't even, anyway. So as Andre and Ted are leaving his office and going out into the hall for Andre to leave, y'all, Andre is so distracted. Nicole gets off one of the elevators and she says, oh, hi, Andre. Y'all, Andre didn't even hear her. He didn't even hear her. And she was like, okay. So she says to Ted, is he okay? And Ted is like, I don't think so, but he's not ready to talk about whatever it is. I will say once again, when Ted asked Andre, are you in some kind of trouble? He said, nothing I can't handle. I'm like, you know what? I cannot. See, here's the thing too. It's like I said earlier, this is step for step, y'all, what happened with Ted and Leslie. And I would have really thought that the writers had at least, if in this particular storyline, so I'm only talking about, my comments are only relegated to this particular storyline. It would make sense to me if they would have waited a couple seasons before they gave us the exact same storyline just with another character. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand. And there's nothing that can happen with Andre and Heather that we did not see with Leslie and Ted. I mean, somebody almost got killed, right? So even if Heather tries to kill somebody, we've already seen that with Ted and them. Laura was run off the road, almost killed, and then she was overdosed with potassium in the hospital, causing her heart to stop after she had a heart attack. So for me, I don't know. It seems like a lack of creativity and kind of grasping for straws to make it to the end of a season, but I don't know. So anywho, so we'll have to see. So Andre goes home to Danny. I'm going to put a pause there because we're going to pick it up with what Danny was doing before she came home. So for those of you who hadn't seen the show, it'll make better sense. So let's go to what happened with Heather after Andre left her hotel room. Y'all, Heather is angry. Do you hear me? She tries to fix herself a drink. So she gets her cell phone and she calls Vanessa, and Vanessa puts her on on FaceTime because she's still at the country club sitting there with Danny. And she's like, hey, Heather, I'm here with Danny. And she's like, what about the beautiful bays? How about we get together and just have drinks? And so Vanessa's like, I would love to, but I got work to do. I'm working on, this whole redesign of the casino. And she's like, okay, Danny, what about you? How about we go out and have drinks? Maybe one, maybe two, maybe three. And Danny's like, I would love to. I'm down for a good time, but I've got work to do. Y'all, Heather is upset, but she didn't let them see this. And she says, they don't put her on FaceTime, it's on speaker. Then Danny says, and maybe later I'm going to be spending time with my husband. When she says that, ooh, y'all, when I tell y'all this lady is doing a great job with this acting, I'm like, whoa, I can see why she won many awards. I mean, she's very, very convincing. And so when they tell her no, she's like, oh, come on, great ladies, you're killing me. And so Vanessa's like, maybe another time when we can do it up right. And so she's like, okay. So when she hangs up the phone with them, she throws her phone on the couch. She goes, I mean, y'all, Heather is crazy, okay? She gets a a decorative small cup or vase, and she throws it at the wall. Y'all, Lord have mercy. I'm like, oh my God. And her neighbor was like, what? And she's like, ah. And so we see Heather later going up to Uptowns. Now, y'all ain't gonna believe this. Now, this right here threw me for a loop, okay? But then, too, I had been, whining and complaining about them giving Carlton somebody. How come Heather gets to the bar, the bartender who was not Grayson, good on me, right? Good for me, right? He gives her this drink that she had earlier in the day, this spicy margarita. And as she's sitting there drinking it, Carlton says something to her very sexy. And she looks down there and she's like, what? And, a man with a tie tied that tight. Basically, you can't handle all this, right? And how come they get to trading sexual talk? And she invites him to come down to her end of the bar and taste her drink. Guess what Carlton does, y'all? He picks up the glass and he licks the rim, the salt on the rim, honey. And he puts it down. He said, oh, I can handle that. I'm like, okay, come on, Carlton. And then he orders the same drink, but he says, make it spicy hot. And so when the bartender gives him this drink, he gives it to her and he takes hers to let her drink. It was the whole thing. I was like, oh my gosh. And so they agree that they're going to go to her hotel and have a night of fun. And she does say, you have that same look that, you just need a distraction for the night, which is a mirror looking right back at me. And he's like, hey, basically we both grown, right? And so she's like, okay, I'll get the car. I'll call the car. You pay for the tab. And child, listen. Now, how this is going to impact things, I don't know. Because when Andre was telling her, I love my wife. Heather, I'm telling you, I love my wife. She said to him, I might just have to get someone to stand in for you, but I still want you. So even though she and Carlton are not going to be this, what Danny and Andre used to be, she still wants Andre, and she's going to get Andre, y'all. It's just a matter of time. But that was very, very interesting. Well, remember I was saying how Heather called, oh girl. Well, Danny and Vanessa, they were continuing their conversation from yesterday, okay? Danny was whining, girl, about her marriage to Andre. He don't want me no more. Maybe he bored. Maybe he's got wanderlust. And I'm like, you know what? She even says to Vanessa, maybe she should just tell him, what she did and clear her conscience, so to speak. And Vanessa's like, okay. And basically, actually, I'm sorry, Vanessa was the one who suggested it. And Danny was like, she don't understand, that. And so Heather says, maybe not Heather, Vanessa. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get these two blonde ladies confused, it seems to me. Anyway, she says to her, maybe he's cheating. And Danny says no, she knows Andre, not to mention she's an expert in cheating, having endured all of Bill's cheatations and liations. And she don't see no signs of that with Andre. She even tells Vanessa, she was like, Vanessa, the other day he was at Uptown just staring, basically, into outer space, and he had gotten drunk, and this was the middle of the day. And so she was like, what? Oh yeah, that doesn't sound like a man who's cheating. That sounds like a man who's tortured. And I'm like, if that wasn't the truth, I don't know what is. But again, the answer to Andre's problems is to just tell Dan. See, this is the thing that's so stupid about this storyline to me. That they got this man acting like, or they've written this like he cheated on Danny. This was a life he had before Danny. There was nothing wrong with it unless we're going to find out that Andre was a part of this whole impaler situation and he didn't do nothing about it. Or what? So it's like, I don't understand why, what is the point of this storyline? Okay, he didn't cheat on Danny. He still kept his vows to Danny. Danny knew he had a life before her. Everybody knew he was a player from the Himalaya. I mean, that was what they gave us from Gideon with Andre. So how is this storyline going to make sense? I can understand if he had cheated on Danny with Heather, then it would make sense that he's so nervous and scared and he's hiding it. So no, I'm like, okay, they trying to put 20 on 10 and I'm just not falling for it myself. I'm like, y'all about to lose me with this storyline too. Y'all about to lose me if y'all don't start making it make some sense, okay? So anyway, y'all, Danny, as I said, Danny and Vanessa were just going over her marriage and so on and so forth. And they were talking about her redecorating the casino and so on and so forth. And that Vanessa's meeting with one of the designers, or the designer today. And so Danny says, I'm done dissecting my marriage for the day. And then the designer comes over and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I can give you guys a few more minutes. And so Vanessa says no. And so he sits down. Danny leaves to go home. And y'all, he says to Vanessa, I was very surprised to get your call. And she was like, you come highly recommended. And she's telling him that she needs this done immediately, basically. And he's like, you know what? I ain't going to have an opening until September because I got this client who's very demanding. And she's trying to build a house. And she's like, a house? And he's like, yes. And she says, I know who that person is. So she sends him through text a quote. She says, if you can get me in basically, today, this week, this is how much you're going to get. And he's like, oh, this week it is. And then she says, and the bonus, for getting it all completed in a week, this is what it's going to be. And he's like, a week it is. And so she tells him it's for her and her partner, Joey, and so on and so forth. Now let's go to Danny. So Danny was at home working when Andre came from meeting with Ted, okay? And he kisses her, and he was like, oh, are you working on that Dupree Heritage Foundation stuff or whatever? And she says yes. And he says to her, well, I can make myself scarce if you want. She's like, no. So they sit down, and y'all, once again, when I tell y'all I'm sick of this, I'm like, you know what? Come on, Beyond the Gates. Don't do this. Don't do this to me. And so they have the same conversation, y'all, that they literally just had earlier in the day at the country club. So we have to listen to all this over again. And once again, he reassures her nothing's wrong. And she says, before Vanessa came over, you were going to tell me something. Or she says, basically, there was something you were going to tell me and you were interrupted. What was it? And she's like, Andre, I can handle it. And he's like, I'm just trying to protect you. And she's like, well, tell me, what is it? Is it something that happened in Europe? He says, yes, it happened in Europe. And so she's like, well, what is it? Basically, if I could deal with Bill, I can deal with anything. And he's like, you know how it is a soap. So just as he's getting ready to, it seems from our vantage point, say something about it, his phone goes off. And she's like, oh, really? And he's like, wait a minute, I promise I'm going to put this on silent. And it's Heather that sent a message saying TikTok. Because she let him know, basically, you ain't got but a few pieces of seconds to let me know whether you're going to be in this bed or not. So anyway, so it's just very crazy, y'all. It's very crazy. And that's where they leave us off, actually. Well, they leave us off with Heather and Carlton, but yeah. Well, y'all, Mona goes back over to the casino, gambling for Randy's soul. And of course, she is cleaning Joey out. And he's like, were you a hustler in a prior life? And she's like, no. And he says, how did you go from holier than thou to a high roller? And y'all, Mona explains that her life, she grew up as, her father, and her mom were in church and preachers or whatever. And they played bingo all the time. And she began to study because she was so interested in the skill and knowing the game. And she started with blackjack, and then she studied this and she studied that. And so Joey's like, okay. Well, at one point, y'all, Randy comes in there. He's like, Mona. And Joey's, praising her, saying how she done cleaned him out of several thousands of dollars. And so Mona was like, I actually came to see you because seemed like the only place I can find you because it hadn't been church. And y'all, Joey is sitting there. He's really enjoying this. And so she tells Randy that the church choir is looking for a tenor because there's some choir thing that's coming up and they need a tenor. And he's like, oh, well, I got this. I don't know if I got time in choir rehearsal every night or once a week. And he looks at Joey, basically in a way of asking permission. And she's like, yeah. And so she looks at Joey and she's like, but I'm sure that you can find time. And she's looking at Joey. And she says, but you can't get into the competition unless you basically pass whatever it is, child. Listen. And he said, oh, I know. Basically, I can sing whatever it is. And so Joey says, why don't you go ahead and do it? We can just rearrange your schedule. He says to him, join the choir, apply for this, whatever it is, this competition thing that Mona was talking about. And y'all, Mona gets up and Randy's like, are you serious, Joey? Y'all, when I tell y'all that Joey was actually happy to see Randy and Mona happy together, it was a genuine moment on Joey's part. And this is the thing, the writers have done such a good job with Joey, the character, writing him. He's such a bad person, but they've made me like him because he has so many good things, like he wants Randy to be happy. And so Mona is touching Randy's arm, and Joey, is looking, and they all looking crazy, you know how it is. And so she and Randy are leaving to go to choir practice together, Chad. So Vanessa comes in there. She says, is it true? Didn't I just see Mona and Randy together in the parking lot, or were my eyes deceiving me? He was like, oh yeah, you saw them. They're on their way to choir practice. And he tells Vanessa, I didn't even know I had a tenor, on my squad, basically. And she's like, what? Because I don't know if she knew Randy could sing. And so anyway, so he says there's a spark between them. And she's like, between Mona and Randy, that's more, basically, I can believe he and Haley were screwing around before he and Mona have a spark. And so anyway, so they just talk about that. And then they get to kissing and whatnot. Nicole, I breathe like that, y'all, because I don't know, Martin and Smitty haven't been that interesting to me lately. Y'all know normally I love me some Martin and Smitty, but here lately they've been kind of boring. So anyway, at least in my viewer experience. So anyway, so Nicole comes over there to check on everything, just to do the whole nine. And Martin and Smitty, they've gotten busy and whatnot, or I thought they were gonna get busy or something, child. And she finally leaves, and Smitty falls asleep on the couch, and Martin is over there working. He wakes up and he's like, Martin, I thought we were supposed to take naps together. And Martin's like, basically, I got all these calls and I just want to try to hurry up and get this work done before you woke up. And so that was nice. I guess for me, y'all, what was very interesting, because it was conflict, is when Smitty went back to work, and we got to see how Martin handled no longer having a house husband, because y'all know Martin, in my opinion, Martin saw Smitty as beneath him in the beginning of the show. Y'all remember how he used to treat Smitty, and I used to get so upset with Martin. How dare he treat Smitty like this, right? He's not his maid, right? And his sex slave, right? And so anyway, so they talk about how, they're going to have plenty of time to sex each other and all the kind of things that they want to do, and, just lounge around the house, because they're going to be empty nesters soon. So yeah. And Nicole leaves, and that's when she goes to the hospital. She gets a text from Kyle, basically talking about baseball, but also how many rounds they gonna go tonight. And they are making these little jokes via text, and that's when she runs into Ted. Now I have to say something. I was very surprised at what Ted told Nicole today, because I thought to myself, you have got to be kidding me that Ted never actually apologized to Nicole. And then I remembered he has apologized a number of times, okay? But he says to Nicole after Andre leaves on the elevator, remember we were talking about that, where she spoke to Andre, and Andre, child, he was just oblivious to everything. And so, listen, Heather got this man scared, y'all. So Ted's like, can I talk to you for a moment? And she's like, yes. And so he takes her to the side, where he commences and launches into a whole apology. I was talking to Andre, and I realized I never said these things out loud to you. I'm so sorry. When you needed me, I wasn't there. And she's like, but we've already covered this. He's like, yeah, but I'm never, ever going to stop apologizing for it. And y'all, I have to say, Ted does a good job. He tells her, I failed you as a man. And of course, y'all know I was like, yes, you did. Matter of fact, you failed me too, Ted. Anyway, y'all know I like to mess around with this character Ted and have fun. But you know what? I said this right here is going to be the break-in before the dawn right here, because he totally caught her unawares. He caught her so off guard with this, full-fledged apology, and how terrible he was to her, and he gave himself to another woman when she needed him. He says all the right things, and y'all, Nicole just falls on Ted and hugs him. And I'm like, you know what? This is the start of Ted and Nicole getting back together. Because, now this is a fictional show, so I'm only talking about a fictional show. In real life, it would never go down like this. But I don't know. He lied and he cheated. It was a long time ago, and it was just once, Now, again, I would never apply this to real life, but, on a fictional show, I'm not sure why they couldn't let these two stay together, but I guess they had to give them some conflict, right? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just looking at my notes. That's pretty much today's show, y'all, really heavily centered on Andre. Andre with Heather, then Andre with Ted, then Andre going home with Danny and appearing that he was going to confess when he basically wasn't, or he didn't. Now, here's the thing. We know that Carlton and Nicole had a thing, okay? And now that Heather and Carlton are going to be having sex together, I'm really interested how they're going to weave in this because Danny, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do this. I don't see Nicole being jealous. Do y'all? I mean, because she seems to truly have chosen Kyle as her, the better of the two, rather, or the more compatible with her of the two. So I don't know. And Andre, Andre. I mean, yeah, Carlton knows Andre, right? Because he is his best friend's nephew. But I mean, Andre and Carlton have never had any issues. But again, even if Andre finds out that Heather is sleeping with Carlton, that ain't gonna do nothing because she done already told him, I'm gonna find me a flunky. But you, you got so many minutes to make up your mind about whether this bed up over here gonna find your back in it, okay? So, but yeah, that was pretty much the show, y'all. Today was pretty slow, and I guess Wednesday's shows are pretty slow, right, y'all? Pretty slow. I always look forward to, because I'm not a soap watcher, and I know I differ from so many of you because so many of you have told us all that you've been watching soaps forever. And so for me, I find that I really look forward to either a Monday or a Friday show. And I kind of just, hold my breath Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Because generally outside of sweeps, I find those weekday shows are pretty slow. But Monday is taking us off the ledge of Friday, and then Friday is leaving us on an edge to be picked up on Monday. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of you. Let's get back together tomorrow for 156. Bye, guys.